Mike, we're continuing our What I Love About Comics video series. Tell us another thing that you love about comics.
Well, you've already heard me talk about how I love the shared universe, where you've got a bunch of people getting together and weaving something. You know, I talked about it with how the team-up books brought continuity and that shared universe feel into Marvel and DC. I talked some about Valiant and how they created their universe from the beginning. That was all the brainchild of Jim Shooter, of course. Well, here's one that people don't hear about that often. That was just as good, if not better. The Ultraverse from Malibu. Malibu? No, Malibu. Okay, let's give you a little bit of background. There were tons of comic companies, most of them pretty small, competing, trying to get things together. It's the 90s, comics are booming. This group of artists get together from Marvel Comics and decide to create their own company. They call it Image. I thought you were talking about Malibu. Well, yeah, I am. So they create Image, and they have this concept of comics they want to do, but they don't know a thing about publishing. So what do? They contact a publisher that knows how to do things. And that publisher was Malibu. What's that have to do with the Ultraverse? Well, it's easy. I'm glad you asked that question. See, Image was a huge success and gave Malibu a lot of money. And Malibu turned around and said, we want to get into the superhero stuff too. And they decided to do it different from everyone else. They started off, they hired writers. And they got all these writers together for several summits to put together, these are characters we would like to do, and here's the world and how it all fits. And they got just little name writers. You know, Steve Englehart, you may have heard me mention him just last talk. Mike Barr, creator of The Outsiders for DC, a longtime writer on lots of street-level characters. James Robinson, best known for his work, of course, nowadays, on Starman and Justice Society of America, current writer of Marvel stuff, but he was a pretty big name then, too. Len Straczewski, he was best known for his work with Gerard Jones on Justice League books. Gerard Jones was best known for his work on Green Lantern. I think that's a character that you've heard of a couple of times, Steve. James Hudnell, again, not really well known, but a really good writer. And Steve Gerber, you know, the creator of Howard the Duck, one of the major writers of the Defenders, the creator of Omega the Unknown, known for his weird stuff. And these people all came together for several weeks, throwing out concepts and coming up with a universe that works, that has a backstory, that has characters that have history, and brand new characters, and then they start putting out books. Now you combine that with a couple of world-class artists, George Perez, Barry Windsor Smith, this guy named Terry Dodson. He was pretty new at the time, but now he's pretty well known. This is some of his early stuff. Aaron Lopresti, Derek Robertson. So, you know, just a couple of people. And then they started going. And they put out all sorts of stuff. Hardcase, who the first time you see him, he's one of the premier heroes because he was in the Squad before they were all killed. What? Yeah, backstory. And then they revealed that slowly over time. as to what happened to the squad and why he was there. But he's got superpowers. There's not a lot of people in the world with superpowers till you get to Strangers #1, which was like week 2, where the event occurs. The event? What's that? Well, lightning strikes from nowhere, seemingly, and changes all sorts of people. One group in The Strangers, which was one of Englehart's books, was about a bunch of people that were on a trolley car in San Francisco, tourists from all over. The trolley car gets hit by this lightning, and 7 of them end up with powers and team up because someone's out to get them. They literally are strangers, and they all have superpowers, and they're trying to do good and trying to keep from being killed by someone that's hunting them down. You've got Prototype, an Iron Man type character, guy in his suit of armor that was a prototype for military, for military usage. He's also the corporate symbol, and so he's going out trying to fight crime because now there's all these people with superpowers. You've got Prime. This was Len Straczynski's main contribution, with art by Norm Brayfogle. It's about a kid who gets hit by with powers because of the event, and he all of a sudden can create this ectoplasmic form that is wish fulfillment for him. He's a big, strong superhero. It's Captain Marvel without the magic or the wisdom. You've also got characters like Mantra. Mantra was one of Mike Barr's, and it's a pretty neat twist on a superhero, a standard superhero trope, while dealing with backstory, again, because they had this. You've got this guy who is an eternal warrior. He fights, he dies, he comes back, reincarnated again and again and again, working with this wizard to stop magic. Well, he dies. As he's getting ready to be reincarnated, the event occurs and something goes wrong. For the first time, he is not he. He's female. He doesn't have the muscle to be able to do what he normally did. Oh, and by the way, the wizard no longer has powers. Those powers now rest in her. So she is one of the world's premier magicians with power-wise, with no ability how magic works, or no knowledge of how magic works, has to learn on the run. Well, her first instinct is hit something with a sword. Sounds pretty cool? That's not even the coolest. They started a book called Exiles. Here's 4 or 5 people, 5, that got powers, and they decide to become heroes, so they become a team. They call themselves the Exiles. And they go out to fight crime, and in issue 4 of their book, they all die, and the book's over. Now, it didn't matter that issue 5 and 6 were already announced. They had taken orders. It was canceled at issue 4. That was purposefully done to let you know that the Ultraverse was not like anyone else. That all heroes would not be successful. All people with powers could not be able to function and do things correctly. And no one in the universe was safe. They had other characters too. Did I mention Sludge? That was Steve Gerber's main book. He brought it in with a guy named Aaron Lopresti, who, again, some of his earliest work. And this was a guy who, when the event happened, turned into a Swamp Thing or Man Thing type thing, except he wasn't plant matter. He was literally garbage. And now he's trying to go from there. Gee, I didn't even mention Nightman, Englehart's creation that sounds similar to his Shadow Man that he did for one issue of Valiant. You've got a guy who loves New Orleans jazz, is into the whole jazz scene, and ends up with powers. I didn't mention Rune, the Psychic Vampire by Barry Windsor Smith. I didn't mention Ultraverse, which was their version of the Avengers or the Justice League, where all the big heroes got together. There was tons and tons of great stuff. Why don't you hear about it anymore? Oh, that's easy. The way they ended. Marvel bought Malibu. Now, there's lots of rumors as to why and what happened. Lots of people for years said it was because Malibu had a cutting-edge coloring department and Marvel needed it. Is that the case? I don't know, maybe. There's other rumors that it was because Marvel didn't want DC buying them and increasing their market share because these characters were cool and the universe worked. The truth is, we don't know. Just like we don't know why Marvel, owning these characters, hasn't used them. There's been rumors it's because all the creators have a stake in every character. If they get used, the creators have to get royalties. There's a rumor that it's not because of that. It's because, well, there was some dirty laundry going on with Dave Mason, the creator of Malibu, and they didn't want it, and that's what caused the characters to not show up. The truth is, we don't know. All we know is a great company doing great comics for over 2 years, close to 3, and then they were bought by Marvel and they're gone. But you want a cohesive universe and superheroes, you can't get much better than the Ultraverse. And that's one of the reasons that I love comics.